Hey class, we are now on chapter 37 of Crash. What happened last time? He actually showed some kindness to his sister, and he tried to make her the fish cakes, which were just brownies that his grandpa Scooter called fish cakes, catfish cakes. Um, his grandfather Scooter still recovering from his stroke. Obviously, this is kind of changed Crash a little bit, and as well as his sister. His sister seems pretty upset about it as well. So, chapter 37, February 13th. Scooter talks. One word. Bye bye. At first, I thought he was telling us to and saying goodbye, even the minute we got there, but it turns out that's all he says. It's his only answer. Hi, Scooter. Bye bye. How are you feeling today? Bye bye. Do you like your therapist? Bye bye. How many days are in a year? Bye bye. In the car, Abby said, "Can't he say anything else?" My mother sighed. "For now, I guess not." Her voice sounded even more tired than usual. Each word seemed to drag itself from her mouth. Abby wouldn't let it go. "What does it mean?" "I don't know exactly. I guess to him it means everything." Abby grumbled. "I wish he could say more. I hope he can tell me the Ollie the Octopus stories again." "Let's try to concentrate on what he can do," said Mom, "not on what he can't." "Don't get old, kids," said my father. It was quiet the rest of the way home. As we were pulling into the driveway, Abby piped up. "It must have been terrible not to have a single word. And now he has one. And he can use it for anything. I'm going to be happy about that." She bounced out of the car, and as she did, she looked happy. Tonight, after dinner, I was taking the trash outside when I heard footsteps running up the street. It's no big deal for somebody to go running past our house. Half the people in town seem to jog or run around, but these feet weren't jogging, they were sprinting. I looked. The sprinter went zipping past our house. It was too dark to tell much, but a couple of houses up there's a street light, and for just a second there, he was. Out in the dark, in the back, a kid, skinny, Webb. The first thing I thought was somebody's after him, and I ran to the sidewalk and looked down the street, listening. Nothing. After DeLuca drenched him with the squirt gun, Webb was out of school for 2 days. I heard he almost caught pneumonia. I looked in the other direction. The footstep sound got slower and then stopped. That meant he was walking, maybe coming back. I went in. Now we're on chapter 38, February 28th. My mother turned the paper bag upside down. Two glittery red high-heeled shoes tumbled onto my desk. "Mrs. Linford found them when she was dust mopping under your bed. She said she didn't want to be snoopy, but she thought it was kind of unusual, and she couldn't imagine that they were a present for me." She squinted at me. "They're not, are they?" "No," I said, "and she is a snoop." "I guess you're right. Does that make me a snoop too?" "Yeah," I said, and I put the shoes back in the bag. She didn't go away. "So, is it a secret?" I glared at her. Then I told her why I got them. "So why are you keeping them?" I told her that too. "Well, that's very sweet of you, and if it makes you feel any better, I don't think you have to worry anymore about your grandfather making it. It's just a question of how well he'll be and how he'll get going." She was looking at me funny. "Let me see those again." She pulled out one of the shoes and studied it. "What are you grinning at?" I said. "Where did you get these?" "I don't know. I didn't notice. I told you. I was in a hurry." "Shoes usually come in a box." "Not these. They were just sitting at the counter." "How much did you pay for them?" $6. She started to giggle and wag her head. "What?" I said. "You know where you got these. At a store, I told you." "You did something you said you'd never do, Mr. Price Tag." She tried to squeeze my nose, but I pulled away. "You went shopping at the second time around." When I woke up the next morning, my first thought was, I was at a thrift shop? I hope it doesn't show at school. My mother was probably right about Scooter making it. At least, last time we visited him, we took him some snapper soup in a thermo mug. It's one of his all-time favorite things to eat. My mother fed it to him. When he tasted the first spoonful, his eyes lit up. He was Scooter again, and he went, "Hey, bye. Hey, bye." I told my sister, "The mouse is never going to move into that house out there." It'll come and take your food, but it's never going to live there. She scowled. She didn't want to talk about it. She thinks she's the only one in the house that knows about anything with nature. What do you care? She said. I don't, I said. I'm just saying. It was killing her to ask, and finally she snorted. So saying what? That thing's just too much open. It's open too much. You should push it back under the bushes. Mice like things dark and cozy like. That's why they were living in my football bag. Then I guess the mouse house has to be smelly too, she said, and walked away. Every night, 7 nights a week, Webb sprints past our house. I wonder what Webb is practicing for. Chapter 39, March 22nd. Something happened in English today. A couple weeks ago, we got an assignment. Write an essay about someone you know. Tell what that person means to you. I wrote about Scooter. Not about the stroke and the rehab and all, just the good stuff. I told about his great cooking and the stories in bed and how he came to all my games, even in the rain. The papers were due today. When I got to class, Webb was already there, wearing his old peace button. DeLuca was there too, when I took my seat. Webb got up to talk to the teacher, and as soon as that happened, Mike went to Webb's desk and snatched some stapled sheets of paper from it. Probably Webb's essay, I figured. On the way back to his desk, he crumpled it into a ball. When Webb got back, he saw right away what happened, and he started looking around frantically for his essay under his desk, in his books. Kids were giggling, and suddenly, while Webb's back was to him, Mike turned and whipped the ball of paper over to me. I never didn't catch a ball that was thrown in my life. I caught it, and the bell rang, and everybody settled down. The class started. The teacher didn't ask for the essays right away. As the period went on, I got more and more curious about Webb's paper, and finally, as quiet as I could, I uncrumpled it. I flattened it against my desktop and shielded it with my book and read. One of the most important people to me is my great-grandfather, Henry Wilhide Webb III. I feel very fortunate and blessed to have a great-grandfather, but he is more than that to me. He is 93 years old. It is hard to believe that someone who is 80 years older than I can understand how I feel, but he can. He is my best friend. Henry Wilhide Webb III gave me my first name. In the year 1919, he ran in his college track team in the famous Penn Relays. Shortly after that, he traveled west to the state of North Dakota, and he settled there and raised a family. But he never forgot that day at the Penn Relays. When I was born, my mother told him that he could name his first grandson, and he named him Penn, and that was me. We moved to Pennsylvania 7 years ago. I've only seen him once since then, and I miss him very much. Most of all, I miss the stories that he used to tell me about the old days. Sometimes he makes me Sometimes he makes me sad when he says he feels himself disappearing like the prairie. My great grandfather is coming to visit us for 2 weeks in April. He is coming then because that is when the Penn Relays take place. He says he wants to see them one last time. I do not believe he knows that middle schools and even grade schools now compete in the relays. I believe that the best gift I can give my great-grandfather would be for him to see me run in the Penn Relays, and that's why I've been practicing my running every night. The teacher collected the papers, and I passed mine in. The bell rang, and everybody packed up. Webb took a last look around his desk, and while everybody else headed for the door, he headed for the teacher. I intercepted him. I stuck the essay in his hand. I found it, I said. It's wrinkled, but it's okay. He was gaping at me like a hooked fish when I went out of the door. Track sign-ups are tomorrow. So now we know why Penn was running around the neighborhood. He's practicing for the Penn Relays that will have all sorts of schools competing in them. And so he's practicing for that. Also, kind of a change in Crash over these last few chapters. He usually would have continued to pick on Penn Webb, and now he seems like he's kind of grown up a little bit, like he doesn't really care about that. And he might even be sympathizing with how Penn feels and how he wants to do something for his great-grandfather. So it's really cool. That's what I love about this book is you get to see how Crash changes over these couple of chapters. And now we get to see what happens when they go to try out for the track team at the school. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.